You're giving yourself all these experiences.
Exactly.
And you're giving yourself these experiences to know more about yourself and to know more about who you really are. To know who you really are, you also must be faced with the things that you are functioning from that are not true for you. And so that's, in a way, those are the things that limit you to show up as your full self. Those are the things that prevent, in a way, the energy that flows through you to show up in an undistorted way, because they are contractions and limitations that prevent that flow to occur. What is the judgment that you have of her?
I don't have any judgment.
That's true. What's the judgment?
She was very...
No. What is the judgment that you have of her?
Oh, but when this situation happened, or when I saw her first time?
No, now.
Now.
What is the judgment you have of her?
To be really honest, I feel sorry for her because I think she is very unhappy in her job, and this unhappiness...
You're giving me a rational story which you think is the perfect, correct, and right answer. I'm asking, what is the judgment you have of her?
I think she's nasty. She's not very nice.
There we go. Now, this is the first true answer that you gave me in the last 2 minutes. You have been nasty to somebody else. And in that moment, maybe the judgment came from another, you took it on, maybe you fabricated it yourself, it doesn't matter, but in that moment you made yourself wrong. You think, shit, I'm a nasty person. That happened in that moment. I have been a nasty person. I've been a nasty person here. And that charge you kept. That judgment about you kept. You locked that in energetically.
Okay, now I understood. Hello, everyone. Today we have like a different podcast because it's going to be in English, but you're gonna have the translation underneath. We have a very special person with us today. Ron, hello.
Hello. It's nice to be here in Barcelona.
Thank you. He is coming from Holland all the way just to do this podcast with us.
It's almost entirely true.
Which is fantastic. He had a special connection with the environment and very interesting background as well that he's gonna share with us in a second. So, Ron, I would like to ask you, for the people that is watching, firstly, what is your background about of science, studies?
I was, I guess, trained. I'm an engineer from degree, and I worked in renewable energy my whole life. I have my own company. I worked for other companies too, but last couple of years I've gone on a very different path. But before that, I ran a company in different countries in the field of renewable energy. Yeah.
Amazing. And when was the moment that you have this necessity or urgency to change and become more, let's say, kind of a spiritual being?
Right. I don't really know if I would call it spiritual being, but there was a moment in 2021, and I was running my company, and for a few months, maybe almost a year by then, I hadn't really been as excited anymore as I had in the past. And for me, work has always been fun. Like whatever I've been doing, almost always has been fun. But in those moments, it would be like on a Sunday, I would think, oh, tomorrow is Monday. I need to go to do work again. And I'm like, what is going on here? That's weird because I never really had that experience before. And then one day, after months of this, I imagined myself being really like at the end of my life, like old and, not dying tomorrow, but knowing like, okay, my life has mostly run its course. And I knew that in that moment, I would kind of reflect back on, the life I would have lived. And in that moment, such a sadness came over me when I would think of regretting what I would have not chosen. And it was so strong that, in that moment, I I asked myself, okay, what is it that you want to do? And it was almost like like a like a voice outside of me said, I want to discover the mysteries of the universe. And in that moment right there, I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I had no idea what it meant, but that's what I went to do. And I started to figure out how to restructure my company and how to step out. Of course, that took a few months because it's not like quitting a job. Um, but that's in a moment really where I chose a different direction. And of course, in the years leading up to it, I already been curious about stuff a little bit beyond, let's say, what our rational mind and our conventional ideas in this world are about. But that really was a moment where I made a very clear choice. So like, okay, I'm going to find out about something else that I don't know what that looks like or what that will turn into, but I know there is something there for me that I want to go explore, and that's what I did.
That's very interesting what you're saying, because it's not like you watch a movie or you listen
No.
to a song or a friend came to you and tell you this or that. It came straight away from your consciousness.
I guess I don't know where it came from at that time. It hit me like a clear bell, and it was like really, and it was 10 seconds, and it was done, and I had made the choice. Yeah.
Wow. And okay, so when you have a clarity about I'm going to found the mysteries of the universe, where did you start? Because this is a big question.
Yeah. Um, So, what happened was that so that was in the summer, and then on January 1st, it was all done. It was formally completed. I was out, and I think on January 5th, I was in Mexico. I thought I would be there for a music concert, but or an event, but that event got canceled on the day, and so there was no music, but there was a woman there who was like a bruja, a witch, uh, and she told me that I had certain abilities, and she showed me a clarity that I recognized in her that I had never seen in anybody else before. And so I became very curious because I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. And so I started practicing in a way with her for the first 2 months. And so that was kind of the first door that really opened into expanding your consciousness, dissolving, let's say, the limitations through which I and most people in different forms, but look at the world, perceive the world. And I started to experience a very fast change in myself. And I was like, this is amazing. I couldn't believe how fast my reality was shifting. And so that was kind of where it started. And then one person, the next, and then stuff finds you, because if you're curious and you're really curious, and you ask for those kind of things, they will come to you. And
Amazing.
that's not
So,
just for me. That's true for everybody.
so she was your first mentor
In a way,
in this path, and then you found other people which fit this curiosity
yes,
of knowledge, and you train by yourself as
a
well
lot.
and listen to yourself, I guess.
Yes, that was maybe one of the main things I had to learn, is to not rely on my rational mind as much. If you work as an engineer, and you're very much in the rational mind's world, no? And
Totally.
so I had a very active mind, and a very a very like analytical way of making decisions and choices. And I had to really stop that process from running the show, because I had to rely much more on using like awareness and receiving information on another level to guide me to what was kind of the next thing to do. Because if you start exploring that sort of in that direction, your rational mind is a very unuseful thing. It basically stops you from expanding your consciousness more than it helps you. And so that was something that I really had to detrain myself from relying on, from functioning from. And and over time I started to become much more present, much more sort of sensing, if something was relevant for me or if something was true for me, and yeah, so that, and then becomes easier, because then you very quickly start to sense, oh, I need to maybe talk to this person, or I need to read that book, without your brain interfering and giving you all kinds of conclusions that have nothing to do with what is true, but it's just a framework through which you function that basically prevents you to receive, much more that is there for you.
You mean like synchronicities?
Synchronicities are part, so you start recognizing synchronicities more, and that's kind of our kind of pointers to this is for you. You're on the path where you are sort of having the least resistance, where you're aligned with what you're curious to discover. And yeah, a rational mind doesn't really pick up on those. They may say, oh, that was a coincidence, but when you have 50 coincidences on a day, and everything just falls into place automatically, you are basically in the flow of where you match the pace of your path. And so that was part in synchronicities, but also really, I think a lot of people will notice sometimes, but maybe others use it much less often than they can, is that when something is, we had a conversation yesterday, and I asked you a question about, is this true for you? And I asked you to say yes, and I asked you to say no.
Yes.
Because you didn't know the answer until you listened to which of the two was lighter for you. And so when something's light, that is in a way the energy showing us, this is true for us. And sometimes we function from an idea, and when you really ask somebody, is this true? They say yes. And then you ask, okay, now say no. And they say no, and all of a sudden they feel that the answer of no is lighter, and they're just functioning from a point of view, and everybody does this, and not just 2 or 3, like a whole book full of them, that in that moment you basically realize, okay, I am functioning from a lie. I am functioning from this conclusion that is not true for me, but I have made it true. And in that moment, you can basically let it go and think, hey, that's not true. And all of a sudden your world expands a little bit. And so the other thing of not being in your mind is very much starting to listen to or feel into what is light and what is heavy. And what is light shows you the things that will contribute more for you, that will show you what's aligned with the path that you're choosing to walk, that shows you, what is going to be easier for you to experience. So yeah, that was the other big, let's say, ability that had to come online or early to start expanding sort of my life and expanding how I could see things, and and then other stuff happened later, but that was.
So it's about listening to yourself in a deep way, which we're not used to do, right? It's like,
Yes. I don't know if it's deep. I think what occurs is that a lot of people are not tuning into the sensitivity that is there for them to kind of know, hey, is this light or heavy? Because there's so much noise from the outside world that they continuously expose themselves to from the inside, their mind, going on a loop, and they can't just stop for a second and just listen to the more subtle whispers of what the energy is telling everybody clear as day. And so I don't know if it's deep. It's more about if you calm down and you block out, you don't get absorbed by the mind 24/7, thinking it has to do all kinds of things, getting upset about all kinds of things, which are just your judgments that have nothing to do with the outside world in reality. And you calm yourself down, you start to recognize what is light and what is heavy much faster. And then it's not really deep, it's just more the ability to more subtly discern between what the energy is telling you all day long. And so it's more, we desensitize ourselves a lot, with everything we do. It's busy, it's noisy, it's like your mind is all kinds of, we're highly, in a way, dysregulated, that makes us not able, almost, we are able to it, but that which doesn't make us discern between sort of the more subtle language that energy speaks to us with. Yeah.
Excellent. You told me something really interesting for me yesterday, because I was telling you about one experience I have. I was close to die, almost,
Right.
in the countryside. And then I saw some kind of, I'm summing up, and I saw some kind of human lights coming to me and save me from this situation. And you told me something that I never hear before, and it's that I probably create this experience for myself,
Yes.
to have a kind of initiation, or a kind of know that I have this power of ask for help and have it. So how would you explain this? It's not easy, I know. So for the people that are watching this podcast, they can understand that sometimes when we have an experience in life and we think like, oh, it's very bad because I have an accident, or
Yeah.
I have a disease, or I lost someone that I love, we are creating this situation
Yes.
for ourselves
Yes.
in order to learn, in order to experience as well the
Yes.
situation.
Yes. Yes. In a way, so I spoke about this on recently. There is let's say, a higher version of yourself, your higher self, you could call it, that has a wider scope of consciousness. And that version of yourself is seeking to know more of itself. And it learns more about itself to have more experiences. This is how consciousness expands, through having more experiences. And so that higher version of you, in a way, gives you, when we are here in this life, in this world, in this reality, gives you experiences so it can learn more about itself. And so you can imagine that not all experiences can be super joyful and super easy, because that wouldn't allow you to really experience contrast. It wouldn't allow you to kind of learn what is true for you, light for you, and what is not true for you or heavy for you. It needs to expose you to a variety of situations where that information, in a way, can be experienced by you, right? And so there is there's of course a difference when we are here and we are having this experience, and we experience something we don't like, or that is difficult for us, makes us sad or makes us afraid or whatever, and we like, I don't want to experience this. Why would I create this on some level for myself, right? That's crazy.
Exactly.
But like, consciousness doesn't really work that way. Now, consciousness doesn't have any judgment about any of these experiences. These are just experiences. But what happens, we're here, we're in a way in a limited version of ourselves, experiencing this reality with a limited perspective of consciousness. And what happens is we have judgments about certain things. We make things right or wrong or good or bad. And in those judgments, we create resistance. So something happens and we think it's bad because, and then whatever it is that we believe, but that judgment basically is a construct you're functioning from, a mechanism that you have attached at some point in any of the experiences that you have had, maybe in this life, maybe in other lives, because this goes through lifetimes, that isn't really true for you, but you've placed a contraction on it, you've identified with that contraction, and now you function from, oh, it's bad to not call your mother 3 times per week because you're not a good daughter or whatever, which has nothing to do with what is true. That's just nonsense. You can choose how much you want to call your mother based on what you prefer to do. There is no, but I give an example that maybe some people will recognize now. But you're like, no, this is bad. And your family might also say, no, you're a bad daughter, or maybe they don't even say that. But this is kind of how a judgment can stick with us. And now we function from this lie. And therefore, we start to experience the contraction every time we don't do something that is aligned with that judgment. And so this is a little example that is a bit lighter than the one that you described where you were in trouble in the snow. But these experiences are basically activating that judgment in us when it is difficult for us. They activate that resistance that we carry around. And the idea is for us to have that experience, recognize the difficulty that we have with it, feel it, and ideally transform it and let it go. And once that sort of contraction is no longer part of our, let's say, energetic makeup, the way that we show up in the world, those kind of experiences don't have to come back into our life anymore because it has been experienced, and your energetic makeup with that judgment sort of attached has changed. That contraction is gone. The new version of you is showing up in the world, and that just doesn't get sort of put into the field of experience.
Okay, so this is like, for example, when you have a bad boyfriend.
A bad boyfriend.
And you're like, okay, my boyfriend is bad, so I changed my boyfriend, and he's bad again, and he's doing the same, and I changed my boyfriend, and he's doing exactly the same. And then you start to think like, maybe it's not my partner outside, it's me.
Yes, that would be, yes, you can do that the first time with a experience that you don't desire to have in a relationship, or you can do this your whole life and don't pick it up and do a lot of drama every time and blame everybody else all your life. You can do that too. If that's a fun experience for you, keep doing that. But most people, might consider that letting go of whatever it is you're holding on to that is creating that situation, and therefore you are giving yourself that situation time and time again.
Okay.
To see the judgments you're functioning from, to see, let's say, the conclusions and the limiting ideas you're functioning from, and to look at them and dissolve them and let them go. And then you can go on your way and experience, let's say, a higher frequency of consciousness in which that kind of drama doesn't really exist anymore.
Exactly.
But some people prefer to hit the wall 8 times before they do that. That's okay too. I don't.
So you wrote a book.
I did.
Which is called
The Power of Creation.
Power of Creation.
Yes.
And the people that see this podcast, they can follow it and do some exercises to realize what they need to change.
Yes. The idea of the book is that how do you find out what are those judgments and conclusions that you do not know you're functioning from,
Exactly.
but you do function from? And this is true for everybody. I mean, 99.9 and how many nines you want to fill after that is fine. Because without that limitation, this experience of life wouldn't really exist in the way it does. This experience of life requires us to have a limited point of view on consciousness to allow us to have the intensity of this physical reality experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so it's not like you're going to dissolve all of them. That's not the idea. But you can dissolve the ones that give you the experiences that you don't prefer, the experiences that give you contracting, states, by letting go of these judgments and conclusions that you function from. Now, the first question is, how do I know which one they are for me? Because if I would know them, I wouldn't have them. So that's step one. And the book helps you to kind of connect with those. And then the second thing is, how do I let them go? Because now I know that I have a judgment about a waitress that is unfriendly to me behind the counter.
Yeah.
And that says
happened today.
Right, exactly. With her, not me. I only had lovely waitresses today behind the counter.
Lucky you.
Or not lucky me. Or I don't have a judgment about not being friendly to others about myself. And so you are giving yourself the experience because at some point you've been or chosen something that you have made wrong, which is related to I am not kind, friendly, serviceable, whatever it was exactly in your case. And so you keep occasionally giving yourself the experience so that contraction comes up.
Okay.
And so you can, rather than getting upset with the waitress, think, this contraction is a trigger that follows from something that I am carrying around, and I'm giving myself an experience to look at what that really is. And if I find it and let it go, the waitresses will be much nicer to me for the rest of my life.
Okay, because normally they are very friendly.
I am sure, but you got triggered by that experience, and that is because that trigger sits inside your system.
Okay, so if we analyze this situation, which it can happen to everyone.
Yes.
It's like very common situation. Do I need to analyze myself in order to find this part of me, correct me if I am wrong, that it's not allowing me to be friendly to others?
No.
Okay.
No, you can be perfectly friendly to others. I'll give you an example. Like, the experience you had is maybe a slightly more, as you, let's say, clean the house, these contracting things start to move, you go into what maybe could be considered the more extreme things that everybody would get upset about. So for instance, somebody who's really unfriendly to you behind the counter is something that most people would get a little bit upset about.
Yeah.
Most people would agree with you that you're right, that she was a stupid woman and she shouldn't do that and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean there's no judgment involved. I'll give you an example. I went to Burning Man a few months ago, and we went with a group. And I had paid for transport and many things, and we had agreed that we would share the money. But there was one girl, and when Burning Man was over, she owed me $500 still that she had to pay.
Okay.
And I asked her, okay, can you send me the money? And I knew the first time already, like, she's lying to me. And so I asked 4 or 5 times, but she just, no, I don't want to pay back the money. Now, of course, this is very easy to go to everybody and tell everybody how stupid this woman is and that I'm right, and very easy. But I know that I am giving myself that experience to show something about where I still have a judgment about somebody. And yes, she's not being honest, she's not being kind, she's lying to me. All these things are true. But I know I'm giving myself that experience because at some point I still hold a judgment in me that is about what she is showing me in that experience. And then I remember, because I got a bit upset, and I'm like, why am I getting upset here? Because the $500 was, I don't care about $500. My life changes zero with $500, right? It's not, but it's enough money to not just let it go either, no? Because if it would be 50, I wouldn't have whatever, But 500 is enough to say, okay, this is annoying, It's enough money to really
for
be like,
most of us, it will be very annoying.
I understand, but it's not about the money, because I can't even tell you close to $5,000 how much there is in my bank account. I wouldn't have no idea, no? So it's not relevant. It makes no difference. So what? And so I go to, okay, what is going on here? And after like 2-3 weeks of this, I remember a conversation I had about 8 years ago. This was before I changed my my path, but I one day was spoke with a woman, and she was like a medium in a way, she was channeling information, and she was talking to me about other lifetimes I had a strong connection with. And the one that was most strongly connected here was one where I had been a gypsy and I'd been out stealing things.
Wow.
Yes. And she said, and I remember all of a sudden that she said, and that's why you have a problem with people being dishonest. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't really notice that was so strong for me. And all of a sudden I realized, because that woman, that girl, had a very gypsy energy, the one that went to Burning Man with us. She had a very gypsy energy. And so I am giving myself that experience to, in a way, awaken again that remaining judgment that I have created about that time, that connection that I had at that lifetime where I was a gypsy and stealing out and being dishonest. And that was apparently not fully processed. So I give myself that experience. And the moment that I realized that was it was gone.
And you let it go, the emotion.
Yes, the contraction. I mean, it took me, but yes, that was the awareness that I was seeking, and the experience I was giving myself in order to expand further. Because, and I'm giving this example because this is an example where almost everybody would get upset about, where almost everybody would judge that person about. But judgment is always a lie. Always, there is no exception. And so I'm telling you this because you had an experience before where somebody is, not being kind, and you're already in a way cleaning up the slightly more advanced contractions that that prevent you to expand even further. You're not in the very basic sort of limitations because you've cleaned house mostly, but now you're coming into the ones that are very easy to agree with everybody on, that that the judgment is true. Never. And so that was in a way, in a way you could see, wow, this is kind of nice that I get to experience this, because I'm almost reaching a next level where my consciousness wants to step into, but I need to also let go of a judgment that I still have of myself at some level about, me not being kind, not being honest, something in that space, to expand further, because that is a limiting judgment that you, in that case, hold of yourself still. And that is something that also needs to be swept out of the house in order for the house to expand.
Incredible, excellent. So we have something here I don't know if in UK or America they have it, I don't know, but in Spain I hear a lot in coaching sessions, the law of the mirror.
Right.
It's not something similar?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, the law of the mirror, like la ley del espejo, it's like what you see outside is a reflection of what is going inside.
100%.
And you need to analyze it in order to get organized inside yourself.
Yes.
And let it go and expand. So I think it's very similar, but
it's exactly this.
Incredible, because I never totally understood this kind of law, because I was always thinking, but if I am nice to people, why if someone wouldn't be nice with me?
No, it's not. People don't treat you like you treat them. They treat you more in what, it's generic. Now, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say you're giving yourself all these experiences.
Exactly.
And you're giving yourself these experiences to know more about yourself and to know more about who you really are. To know who you really are, you also must be faced with the things that you are functioning from that are not true for you. And so that's, in a way, those are the things that limit you to show up as your full self. Those are the things that prevent, in a way, the energy that flows through you to show up in an undistorted way, because they are contractions and limitations that prevent that flow to occur.
So now what will be very good with me, because this situation with the waitress behind the counter, it was this morning.
Yeah.
About maybe 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
So now what it will be very good for me is breathe and connect with myself and let it go.
Well, you can do that. I'm not saying there is one perfect way to dissolve the resolution, but you haven't gotten to the point where you know what the judgment is that you have about yourself. Because you just think, no, I need to accept her. No.
So can we do here
Okay, so
because I want the people to understand the process.
Okay, let's go. So what is the judgment that you have of her?
I don't have any judgment.
That's not true. What's the judgment?
She was very...
No. What is the judgment that you have of her?
Oh, but when this situation happened, or when I saw her first time?
No, now. What is the judgment you have of her?
To be really honest, I feel sorry for her, because I think she is very unhappy in her job, and this unhappiness...
You're giving me a rational story which you think is the perfect, correct, and right answer. I'm asking, what is the judgment you have of her?
I think she's nasty. She's not very nice.
There we go. This is the first true answer that you gave me in the last 2 minutes.
I don't like her.
Right. Okay, she's nasty?
Yeah.
Okay. So... everywhere you have been a nasty person that wasn't kind to other people, will you now destroy and uncreate all that?
You want me to tell you a moment?
No. I said, everywhere you have been a nasty person that hasn't been nice to other people, will you now destroy and uncreate that?
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Will you?
Of course.
Okay,
It's done.
we'll see.
Amazing. I felt something.
I
I
know.
felt something. Yeah, I felt like the energy.
And so what happened at some point, that can be this life, another, it doesn't matter in this case, you have been nasty to somebody else. And in that moment, chook, maybe the judgment came from another, you took it on, maybe you fabricated it yourself, it doesn't matter. But in that moment, you made yourself wrong. You think, shit, I'm a nasty person. That happened in that moment. I have been a nasty person. I've been a nasty person here. And that charge you kept, that judgment about you kept, you locked that in energetically.
Okay, now I understood. Yeah.
And so what happens, that in a way limits how you can show up in the world. A lot of people who think on that level they're a nasty person are being overly nice all the time to other people
Okay.
because they don't want others to think that they're a nasty person, because that is the judgment they have of themselves. And so they go out of their way to make sure that everybody believes they're a super nice, the opposite of nasty person.
And that's not nice. That's not good for them in a way.
It's very tiring, and you're not just being yourself. You're trying to create a positive judgment that others have of you, so you don't have to be sort of feeling the negative judgment you have of yourself. But that negative judgment is a lie. So the idea is not to keep overcompensating for the negative judgment so you don't feel it. The idea is, what is the negative judgment that I have? I'm going to let this go because it was a lie. It happened. Maybe I was nice. Maybe it wasn't nice. It doesn't matter. It's an experience that I have. I don't have to identify with it. I can let it go. It's okay.
Okay.
I gave myself an experience. I gave the other person an experience. It's okay.
It's okay. Let it go.
Done. And then the need to be seen as nice goes away. Because you twice started, why do people think that I'm always super nice to people? Yeah, I know, because you want people to think that you're nice, because that's not what you really believe of yourself on that level.
Oh. Yeah, but I don't think I am nice 100% of the time.
Right.
And maybe 70 to 30.
But you understand the mechanism.
Yes, now I think I understand. And I think the people that are watching us at home or they are traveling or something, they can do the exercise on themselves with this example, which happened to everyone at some point in their life.
They can.
The weighted example. Okay.
There is something else at play when I do this with you that has to do with my field. That field isn't present when people do this with themselves. But so the effect is not necessarily the same, but what a great tool to use is, every time you feel yourself judge somebody or something, say, I destroy and uncreate everything I've ever been, done, or chosen that makes me judge this. Because then in a way you give yourself an instruction to release that experience as something you identified with and, started holding on to in an energetic
That's
sense.
like a really cool sentence that people can, maybe we are putting in the description of the video, and you can
clear yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You can use it.
Yes.
Because I think it's very powerful, this sentence.
Yes, and maybe you need to repeat it a few times, but notice when you're not focusing the attention so much on what has occurred, but focus the attention on what you experience. So go to yourself, not forget the outside world. That was just to give you an experience. Focus on yourself, run the clearing, run it maybe a few times, and see if the energy relaxes, if the energy expands. If you stop being, oh, that stupid woman. No. It's like,
okay.
And so repeat it a few times to yourself. Say it out loud, calmly, be present with when you say it, and see what happens. And maybe you need to repeat it a few times. And I'm not saying it's always necessarily 100% gone. I think with you, it changed quite a bit now, but when you do it yourself, but it's definitely, it's a quick fix to soften it. And so repeat it. If it happens again, just repeat it. Maybe it has to have a few of these moments where you keep feeling it, keep clearing it. But that's it's a great upgrade for life to get rid of the judgments that you're functioning from.
It's really good. It's amazing what you just are when you are teaching these things. I even feel the field different around us.
Okay.
So yesterday we've been talking about Jesus. You know that I love the Jesus master figure and what he really did and what he really say when he was here. Can you explain me the same that you explained yesterday about organizing the field? And this is why Jesus could touch someone and heal this person instantly.
Yeah. The first thing that is important to understand is that this reality is basically frequency based, and let's say the levels of consciousness that we experience this reality through is also frequency based. So we get to experience a portion of this reality which is based on our frequency. So it's not that everybody experiences this reality in the same way. And so when you change your frequency, the reality starts showing up differently for you. This is automatic. There is nothing you have to do. This is just how reality works. When you are experiencing life in lower frequencies, you have a lot of, let's say, contracting energies from which you function in that moment. It doesn't have to be permanently, but a lot of the contracting emotions and, hate, shame, regret, guilt, and pride, they are all kind of emotions that put you in contracting states. And from those, let's say, frequency levels, life can be pretty challenging because you are basically connecting with a lot of resistance, and you're inviting a lot of resistance into your experience that can be very challenging and difficult to go through and to experience. And this is where, like, the drama of people's lives, they take place in those frequencies. Now, we often have a bandwidth. No, we have better periods or days, and we have not so nice periods or days, and that is because our frequency isn't always the same, or the sort of a level of consciousness in a way that we are functioning from isn't always the same, but it's basically fluctuating between a bandwidth. Now, what we just did with you, where we cleared a little judgment that you have of yourself, that allowed that bandwidth to go up a little bit. So the upper end of that bandwidth went up a little bit, or the lower end of the bandwidth went up a little bit. That structurally changed something in your energetic field. That's not, oh, I'm doing breathing to make me feel better, which can help, but then you're just training yourself to go more often in the higher part of that bandwidth that you're structurally functioning from. What we just did is change the bandwidth, right? That's a structural change in, let's say, the energetic field that you are. Do you understand me so far? Okay, so that's very different, and that is and that's permanent. So when that's gone, that's gone.
The field includes the body inside and the energy outside.
I'm talking about your energetic field.
It's not atomic energy. It's
no, it's not. It's not physical in a material sense. Okay. It's an energetic. It's your energetic field.
Energy.
Yes.
The aura and chakras.
Yes. Whatever. But it's the energetic makeup of your. In a way, this is all energy. This reality isn't as solid as we believe. This is all just different densities of energy that we get to experience as a physical reality. But it's in reality, it's a holographic field. And so you are not really solid. You are a holographic field, and so it's all energy, and you are just energy. There is no real physical reality in that sense. It's the experience that we have. Anyway, that doesn't matter if people are like, what? Doesn't matter. Your energetic field. So now, when people are feeling sad or are have diseases or have all kinds of emotional dramas and traumas and all kinds of stuff going on in their life, these are energetic distortions, right? These are things that prevent somebody from being their full self. And the idea is that these distortions, these energetic distortions, for instance, in the form of judgments, so as you had one, that was a little distortion.
Yeah.
They they create, let's say, a more limited version of you. And in a way, this experience is for you to find out what these are, let them go. And so you can start showing up more and more as yourself, right? And your life starts to expand, and your life starts to become more easy, and things that you want but don't come to you because you have resistance
Like
against
an
them.
honest version of yourself.
The true version of
The
yourself.
true version of yourself.
Yes.
Okay. That resonates with me because I'm looking for this version constantly.
I understand. In a way, everybody does. It's just that they don't know that they are, because they're having a little fight with all these little things in their life that aren't as they would like them to be, in order for them to understand that it is something inside of them that creates this experience, for them to recognize it, let it go, so they can show up as more of their true self. That is the experience of life. That's it. That's what everybody is doing. There is not much more to it. We are just here to experience more of who we are. And we learn more about who we truly are by figuring out what is not true for us through having experiences that are not so easy and da-la-la for us. So we find out what it is we hold on to that create that experience, let it go. And the moment that we are letting it go, we start showing up more as who we truly are.
But this is us.
To Jesus.
But Jesus, he had a different energy.
So Jesus,
he was born.
So what Jesus did was, when I speak about these bandwidths and the energetic field, is in a way the limitations that prevent people from experiencing it from a higher consciousness, where these distortions are less or no longer there, are, let's say, all the distortions people have prevent them to experience life and consciousness from a higher bandwidth. Now, there are different ways, and there are all kinds of ways to release these limitations, but one way to release a limitation, if somebody with a much more coherent field and a higher voltage, because it's also energetically, comes and trains with the field that is distorted, and the person is willing to let go of the distortion, that field in a way automatically, let's say, dominates the frequency of that field for a moment. That other person basically adjusts the field to the neutral position before the distortion was put there, and boom, the distortion goes. And so that can be a physical disease, where basically the distortion in the field is just taken out because a more powerful and more coherent field basically shows it what it can sort of return to. And then that person accepts that, and the person is healed. Now, neither Jesus nor anybody else can basically override somebody else's free will. So it only happens if somebody is ready to let it go, has experienced the suffering enough for it to release. But you can, and that's in a way a little bit what occurred here.
And this is what he said to some people that he was healing. When the people said, "Oh, thank you, Jesus," he said, "No, you heal yourself."
Yes, exactly.
Your faith.
Yes. Well, not your faith. That was Bible blah.
Yes. It was faith in Old Greek. It was pistis.
Okay.
And pistis, actually, it doesn't mean faith as we understand now. Pistis means aware of consciousness.
There we go.
So this is what he was saying to the person.
That's it.
You're aware of consciousness.
Yes.
It's heal you. It's save you. It's
exactly.
Wow, this is very interesting.
So that's how that works. And that's also how powerful healers sometimes unknowingly work. They do a whole process, but most of the time, almost all of the time, that's just the process for the mind to basically, oh yeah, no, I did something and now I believe that it's possible, but it's field coherence that is really at play when distortions are being dissolved. And so, and the more coherent the field is and the higher the voltage somebody's field can carry, the more dominant the field becomes over another field.
How people that are watching this podcast, how they can open this channel in order to feel more coherent and more?
Yeah, so you go into
something easy that they,
that
they can do.
Yes, I understand. And everybody wants to say, show me how I do it, and then I do what you tell me to do, and then I will be healed. No. The method there is not one method that, and everybody telling you that, this is how you do it. Okay, if that works for you, try it. But it's not true that the method is that important.
Okay.
What is true is there are all kinds of methods and everything of them is perfectly fine. But what is at the heart of that change is your choice to say, I am done with this. I am going to do whatever it takes to change this. I don't want to have this experience of limitation anymore. I don't want to not be able to create what I would really like to create anymore. I would like to release the limitations that prevent me from showing up as I truly are in my life. That is the choice. Now, then there might be times where you have to go through certain emotions because it takes some time for you to really get the awareness of what it really is about. But the change can be like this. It can be 5 seconds.
Okay.
But the problem is, because of all these constructs of what we believe is real, what we believe is true, what we believe is right, what we believe is wrong, there is a whole lot of resistance that prevents us from basically releasing them because we've identified with it a lot, la, 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 la. Now, that's perfectly fine. But the method that will resonate with you is perfectly fine to change whatever it is that you would like to change, if that resonates with you. For one person, it might be, I'll go do an ayahuasca session. For other person, it might go do a course with that guy. For other people, it might be read your book or whatever, and maybe it's all three. And maybe for one thing, one day it's that one. And then next year, it's a completely other method that resonates.
And I have a question. In order for you, for the people that are watching this episode, to change their reality, do they need to have a clear focus, a clear goal? For example, if they said, I always have bad lucks in my job, for example.
Right.
My job is not good, and I try once, and I try second and third, and always my colleagues are bad people,
Right.
and I want to have a job
That
which is exactly.
Yeah.
Because this person, let's say, for example, is a baker, and he's baking
Right.
bread, but he had or she had no position yet to have their own bakery shop. So they are working for others. So maybe they don't even want to be entrepreneurs. Maybe they want to work for someone else. But the thing is, they need to have a clear image that said, no, I'm going to have a job where I'm going to be happy. They're going to treat me well. Or they don't necessarily need to have this image, because just opening the channel, they're going to get it anyway.
So what is more important than the image is the experience, the feeling that gets created by imagining yourself in that situation. So what can help by creating let's say, an imaginary future that makes you feel very happy is not the imagination of the exact future. In fact, it's very important to not make that so solid and be so determined, because you only can imagine what you can imagine now, not what you can imagine in the future. But if you can create, let's say, an idea of what that would be, to put yourself in a state of happiness and joy and abundance and all these things, it serves that purpose. But the moment you feel that state, it's best to let that image go again, because it is about the state, how you feel, that actually is far more important in sort of aligning yourself with a future that you desire to experience, than having a very clear idea of what that future exactly has to look like. And so it can be a mechanism through which you can put yourself in that state, but it is not, if you can put yourself in a joyful, blissful state in other ways, that can be perfectly fine as well. But the problem is, people often don't focus how they feel. Like they are very focused on what they have to do all day and make all kinds of lists, but they're not focused on how would I like to feel today, and make that let's say, a target for today to feel like that, which is way more powerful, because that's the frequency that you're going to experience. And when you experience that frequency, and when you're in a way training yourself more to experience that frequency, you are much more often aligned with the version of reality that you want to experience, because in that higher frequency, you will experience a nicer version of reality automatically. You don't have to do anything for that. I'm not saying there is no action involved in creating that, but the opportunity and the impulse will automatically show itself to you in your life.
That reminds me of a book I love. It's quite a big book. It's called in Spanish, el poder contra la fuerza,
Okay.
which it's
Power versus force.
yes, power versus force. It's wrote by Hawkins,
Yes, David Hawkins.
David Hawkins. I can use their list because he had a list inside the book,
Yes.
which is teaching you, like, for example, sadness
Yes.
is this energy,
Right.
happiness is this energy,
Yes.
love is this energy, unconditional love is this energy.
Yes.
Can we use this as a reference
So what he
to
did,
train ourselves?
yeah, so he used muscle testing to get yes and no answers to questions. And he made an attempt, and he was the first one to admit that, this isn't true. Well, he didn't really say that, but he said it was consciousness was not to be ranked. Consciousness was not to be classified in a scale. It was to be experienced. But our rational mind has such a desire to understand everything that, we can't stop ourselves. So sometimes a bit of a rational framework can help us in a way to put a perspective on this. Now, that doesn't make what he wrote true. I know he muscle tested at 99%. No, that doesn't make it true, because it's a limited perspective, and that's the perspective that he wrote it from. And it's okay, it's not wrong, but it's limited. And so what he did, he made a fictitious scale from 0 to 1,000. And that he said, that's my scale of consciousness. And I know it's exponential, not linear. And I'm going to test where these emotions kind of sit in on that scale. And so you get shame at the very bottom and hate a little bit above it, and then at 200, there was a tipping point where just below it was pride, because that's still, I need to be right about my stuff. And then above that, it became neutral. And so he said, okay, if you're under 200, you're creating basically a destructive experience of life, because these are energies that cannot self-sustain. And that's where you get to experience difficulty in your life if you are functioning, and people don't know really that they're functioning from it. You didn't know you had that judgment about yourself until this morning, and you've been walking around with this your whole life. And you're a pretty aware person. Now, most people have a fraction of your awareness, so you can imagine how limited and it's not wrong. It's not higher awareness is better than lower awareness. No, it just gives you a different type of experience. And the higher self might be curious to have different types of experience. But when you're here, you have choice. So you can walk through that ladder of consciousness, which is, I'm just reusing it because you asked me for it, where you start releasing these things that are in the 50s and the hundreds and the lower frequency, bandwidths that Hawkins is describing. And you start to experience it more from 300, 400, and even, when you really sort of are letting your mind go and are in flow and are in a blissful state above the 500 state that he described, where you even let go of all the rational paradigms and all the conclusions. And that's ladder sort of is a rational framework to help us understand how these different levels of consciousness correspond to more contracting and more expanding experiences.
So I think it's very useful for the people, but they need to understand that they cannot rely on it as is the Bible of emotions or something like that.
That's one thing that is helpful to know. And the other thing that is helpful to know is you have to understand that rationally understanding something doesn't mean that you let it go. And this is also where, and I'm not making psychology wrong, but there is a lot of talking around something that is going on, whereas, and it's not wrong, because sometimes the experience of it more and more through the conversation and opening up can be the first step in cracking the thing.
The other book is called Letting Go.
Right. But
actually,
and so that can be a process to start soften the rigidity of it, but releasing it can be
in 1 second.
Well, 5 seconds. Like the energetic field needs maybe a moment to stabilize, but what we did here, 10 seconds, and it's done. And it can take 2 decades of suffering away, and it can be in 5 seconds. Wow. So I'm not saying any of it is wrong, because I don't know what somebody else wants to experience, and we are here to experience some of the transformation. And if everything would be just like this, we wouldn't know it, because it's through the experience of it, through a little bit maybe of the difficulty with it, through getting to know it really intimately, that it starts to open up and be soft enough to let it go. And so, but But yeah, so it's cool if you're curious about it, read it, study it. Just know that the rational understanding of consciousness has nothing to do with you being more conscious. This is in a way, let's say an eye doctor who studies 15 years in eye university and more, whatever, eye PhD, and he knows everything there is to know about the eye, but he doesn't see 1% more clear. You understand?
Totally.
And so the question is, what do you want? Do you want to accumulate more knowledge, or do you want to increase your consciousness? Those things are not the same. Now, I'm not saying knowledge cannot contribute to becoming more conscious. I'm just saying they're not the same.
They need to apply or
Whatever calls you, you don't have to do anything that doesn't feel light for you. I'm just saying those things are not the same. Do what's light for you. Do what's light for you, and be aware when you are feeling something. Go inside instead of start blaming the world that they do this to me and I have always bad luck and I always have a bad job right. Or what is it in me that keeps giving me this experience that if I would let go of it, this no longer would be required for me to know more about myself? That's a question that the Bakerly friend probably gets more benefit from than complaining about how bad her job is for the third time in a row.
Exactly. Wow, it's so interesting, everything that you are telling us wrong. I think the people need to watch the episode twice.
Okay. That's okay.
Because you have a very active mind and quick as well. Like, and you're putting all the points together, like very quick, like.
Yeah, it's actually not an active mind. The phenomenon is actually when you have access to an integrated information field.
Okay.
So once you are, and it's not very different from speaking a language, right? You can just speak. Everybody can just speak, and they don't have to think. It's just these words are there, and blah, 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 and there is a sentence, and the other person understands what you mean because you've integrated the information field of words and grammar. Now, you can imagine that there are other information fields that maybe are in a different frequency level and they are more complex in that sense that you can also have access to in a similar way. So it has nothing to do with memory, nothing. This has nothing to do with I know this because no, these are integrated information fields and this is not unique to me. I mean, experts can have this in their field too. They can speak with great ease and they can combine all these things and in their field they have access to that information field that is integrated for them. Just mine is quite.
Yeah, yesterday I was listening to a podcast and the lady was explaining how it was a random lady. She was not famous or anything, and she was doing a podcast, and I love it because she was telling about how the old people in the small village of Peru,
right,
they have so much knowledge about the spirit of the planet.
Right.
Well, I will call it Gaia, but I don't know how they call it, Pachamama or something. And how they were doing all these things like planting quinoa very high in order to make rain. It was so beautiful, and I was thinking how these people that didn't go to school, didn't go to university, they don't know even how to write or read, some of them, because they are more than 90 years old now. And she was saying even how fast they were walking on the countryside when people that have like big muscle, they were experienced, they were suffering. And these old people, and she asked one lady, and she said like, excuse me, but how is possible? You are 90 years old and you are, she was transporting a lot of goods on her back. And how is possible you walk so fast? And she said, because I ask the earth to, how did she say? I asked to give me support.
Yeah.
And she was fantastic, but she was telling about how she was recollecting plants with such a love and consciousness and feel. Yeah. And when these people from, I think they were from America, like a big guys, very muscle.
Yeah.
They went to this place and they were trying to take the plants and they were getting all kind of
rashes.
And this old lady, she have nothing. And they asked her and she said, but did you ask the plant? Did you ask the plant to,
If it was okay?
it was okay to take a little bit? And they were like, how are we going to ask the plant? That's ridiculous.
Right.
And they realized how much knowledge these old people have. And where did they learn? It was there, it was in the field.
Yes.
They just integrate it naturally.
Exactly. And yeah, in Peru, a lot of shamanic, let's say, capacity. So really the alchemists of the earth and the elements like fire and air and water. They really are, they really are super connected to that information field. And yeah, I know that especially in the Western world where there is this chase for, fame and fortune, which basically which basically starts to judge what's good or bad in a way that is quite disconnected from what's contributive to our being. Very disconnected from nature, very disconnected from the self. It's this constant pursuit of seeking it outside of you more and more and more and more. And
would you recommend to people, maybe, I don't know, go to the countryside more?
I don't recommend anything to anybody.
How they go,
because I don't know their
noise cancelling.
Right. No, but I don't know people's path, and so I can't know their path until they ask me maybe a question, and I can maybe see what's limiting them from choosing something that's more aligned and give them more of what they desire to experience. And for some people, it might be usually beneficial to spend more time in nature. And for some people, they might want to have a very intense experience in London or in New York or wherever other big city in the corporate rat race and find that very exciting for a decade. Cool. You never know somebody else's paths. And so if we know that we don't know that, it becomes much cleaner. We can always be a contribution, but that stops before I recommend to do this. Unless somebody already has clearly indicated, something about them that you think, okay, this, you have the awareness, okay, this is probably going to help you. Why don't you try that? That's different. But talking to a camera, I recommend people to do this is no. Silly.
Okay, Ron, it's something that you are thinking that I miss, that you would like to add to this conversation?
Yeah, that thing about Jesus came back.
It's something it needs to be said, maybe.
And so when we talk about Jesus, this has nothing to do with the judgment of the church, with the Vatican and zero.
Nothing.
Because that was, in a way, these were just negative elements playing out. When we've been in these negative phases for thousands and thousands of years, and these were in a way, let's say, elements that were introduced in this reality to experience these low frequency experiences, and the church was one. So when we speak about let's say the story of Jesus, which is actually not exactly as people might think it is, but we're not going to do that now. We're talking about let's say a being that was here, that had an unusual high field coherence and an unusual high level of voltage. We say he was full of love. Yes, because that's the frequency that you then operate of, and then increase and just automatically a high healing capacity. But that's just without placing all this identity on it. And because then you go into all kinds of points of view about it. It really is just about what happens. What I'm referring to is what happens on an energetic field level when somebody like that, with an extremely high coherence and an extremely high voltage, starts interacting with others. It starts sort of being a catalyst for distortions in other fields to be released. That's what occurs. And that's why he, in a way, is an example of the mechanism at play when high coherence fields connect with others. And we think it's very special because all of us is dysregulated currently, almost all of us. But there have been other times, and they're not part of our classical history, where everybody's just normal, and this was just the normal way. You spoke had a little example about how you friends when you were younger, when you were living in the south of Spain, somebody had a problem and everybody just started making fun of the problem because in a way that is a healing way, to not take it all so seriously,
Yes.
And so when there's a lot of coherence in people, the few people that create a discoherence automatically gets like release it in the presence of all these people. But because hardly anybody has high field coherence now, people that have these healing abilities are being considered super, super special. They're very, very, very rare, but it's not special in the sense that it's just part of everybody's capacity. It's just that everybody's dysregulated. And that's why it's like people project onto it. It's like, oh, you're so amazing or whatever. Jesus was so, but it's just the contrast between a regulated and a dysregulated field that expresses itself in this reality. So I guess I want to add that, to take the sting of all these subtle points of view that people have about religion and Jesus. And I'm just talking about field dynamics and how this technically functions, and that it was not unique. It's just very rare that people have this ability in this current society, in this time. But it's changing.
It's changing now.
Yes, of course. Since 2012,
We are going to a
higher frequencies.
higher frequency.
Yes, human frequency on Earth is rising, and that tide lifts all the boats. And so, and all the beings have choice, but there is a large group of people here that are going through these changes, and they're releasing these lower, more contracting frequencies, and those changes can be a little bit difficult and a bit bumpy at times, but they are in a way needed to release them so they can start experiencing life from a higher frequency field. So that's in a way what is being experienced by quite a lot of people in the last sort of 10 years, that there's a lot of purging going on. There was a lot of waking up these things that were hidden, to feel them again, to reconnect with them again. And then now I've known them, I let them go, boom. And I took another step on the level of frequencies that I get to experience my life in. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's
And
pretty cool.
The last question for me is, if you have a microphone right now,
Right.
and we are in Barcelona, so you can be in the Tibidabo, right?
In Tibidabo,
It's the very high
Yes.
part of the city,
Yeah.
and you have a microphone. And imagine the whole world can listen to you. And you have a very limited time, like maybe 1 minute. What will be your message for humanity?
I wouldn't say anything, because I know that the ones that can receive something from me will come into my field whenever that time is there.
Okay, so you have a microphone, but you wouldn't say anything.
No.
Because you will do it with your energy field.
I am not somebody who's going to stand in front of a group of people who have absolutely not asked me to say something to them and tell them how to live their life or what's good or not. I mean, I would say enjoy.
Enjoy.
Yes, but I mean, yeah, they don't need me to tell them that, I hope, or well, if the ones listen, enjoy, have fun. But I'm not going to stand on a mountaintop and scream that to people. If people want to come and listen to things I have to share, amazing,
Well, maybe it's a message for the world, that you have the opportunity to be listened to, because it's very noisy our world right now.
Yes.
It's a lot of information everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, advertising, in podcasts, in radio, in TV,
Yes.
in brands, everywhere, all the time. So you have this 1 minute just to say a message, and then you're going to disappear.
I guess if you really would ask me to do that, but I don't need to stand on the mountaintop, I wouldn't say anything. I think I would maybe send out a frequency that is light for people, and those that are willing to receive it can receive it, and those not. It's not about shyness. It is about adding to the yelling isn't going to help with people listening to themselves.
Beautiful. So it will be like a silence, which I love it, because silence is other kind of language.
Right.
And it's beautiful. And you will send an energy field, which some people can resonate,
Yes.
some people not.
They want.
But
Yes.
I think it's very nice.
Well, then we'll do that. I'll take a taxi up to Tibidabo.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ron.
Thank you.
I learned so much from you
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
today, and I think people as well. It's sometimes it's kind of a travel. It's a journey. It's like, wow, but how I need to change so much.
No, one at a
But
time is fine.
one time that you are integrating in, it's very wise, I will say.
And you,
It's a type of wisdom.
yeah, you don't have to change so much. You'll give yourself the experiences that allow you to take on the things one at a time in the pace that you can deal with it. So there's really no need to create more judgment. I'm not doing it fast enough. I'm not doing it good enough. No. Just be curious. Be curious about, hey, there's something here that I don't like to experience. There's somebody that makes me judge that person or this situation. I'm going to use this opportunity for a moment to check with myself what is the judgment I really have, which basically means I have that judgment about me. And forget the world for a second. Ask what's the judgment I have about me that makes me give myself this experience. And that is all you have to do. Be curious. Be curious.
That's your message. Beautiful.
I guess for here, yeah.
So thank you so much
Thank you.
for being with us today.
Thank you. It was fun.
See you soon.
I hope so.